All right, let's talk about something that pretty much everyone deals with at some point, but we don't really understand them. Cysts. What are they? What's causing them? And really, the big one, when should you actually worry? We're going to break it all down. Let's dive in. You know that feeling, right? You're just going about your day and you find this mysterious new lump, and your mind just starts racing. What is this thing? Is it bad? Well, today we are going to demystify these super common bumps and hopefully give you some peace of mind. So, first things first, what even is a cyst? The simplest way to think about it is like a little sac-like pocket of tissue. This tiny pouch can pop up almost anywhere in your body or right under your skin. And here's the most important thing to hear right off the bat. The vast, vast majority of them are totally benign. That means they're not cancerous. Okay, so cyst is a really broad term. It's kind of like saying car. There are a ton of different models, right? So to get a better handle on this, let's take a look at a gallery of the most common types you might run into. This will make it all a lot clearer. First up on our list is the epidermoid cyst. This is one of the most common ones you'll see, and spoiler alert, it's almost always completely harmless. So what's inside this little bump? It's actually filled with keratin, and if that sounds familiar, it should. It's the exact same protein that makes up your hair and nails. Kind of weird, right? These usually pop up when skin cells get trapped under a blocked hair follicle, which creates that small, skin-colored bump that, is typically nothing to worry about. All right, next on our tour is the ganglion cyst. You might have heard of this one, especially if you know anyone who's had issues with their hands or wrists. These guys almost always show up along joints or the little sheaths that cover your tendons, which is exactly why they're so common on the wrist. They're filled with this thick, jelly-like fluid, and usually totally harmless. The only time they really become a problem is if they get big enough to start pressing on a nerve nearby. That's when you might feel some pain or tingling. Okay, our third type is the pilonidal cyst. This one is pretty unique because of its very specific and, let's be honest, kind of uncomfortable location. This cyst forms right in the crease at the top of the buttocks. Seriously, it can start out as just a little dimple in the skin, but if it gets infected, oh boy, it can turn into a really painful abscess. It's often caused by a mix of things: friction from your clothes, hair getting trapped, and pressure from sitting for long stretches. So yeah, it's surprisingly common for people with desk jobs or anyone who drives a lot. And now we're going to talk about a type of cyst that, for very understandable reasons, is a huge source of anxiety for a lot of people: the breast cyst. Okay, so these are just fluid-filled sacs inside the breast tissue. They're typically benign and incredibly common, especially in women before menopause. However, and I really need you to hear this, any new lump or change you find in your breast always needs to be checked out by a doctor. No exceptions. It is always, always better to be safe and get a professional opinion. Okay, so we've looked at a few true cysts, but maybe you've also heard the term pseudocyst thrown around. They sound almost the same, right? But there is one key difference. Let's crack this one open. All right, here's the fundamental difference. A true cyst has its own special wall, a lining made of a thin layer of cells. I want you to picture a tiny little balloon that's holding everything inside. A pseudocyst, on the other hand, it doesn't have that. It's just a collection of fluid that's being held in place by the body's other tissues around it. No balloon. So what's a real-life example of a pseudocyst? Well, you've definitely seen it, and a lot of us have had the displeasure of experiencing it firsthand: cystic acne. Yeah, that's right. Cystic acne forms deep under your skin when a pore gets totally clogged up with bacteria, oil, and dead skin cells. This triggers a huge inflammatory response from your body, and that leads to those big, painful, deep-set, pus-filled bumps. And since those pockets of inflammation don't have that special self-contained cellular lining, that little balloon we talked about, they are technically pseudocysts. All right, so all of this naturally leads to the next big question. Why do these things even form in the first place? Let's dig into some of the root causes. Well, the honest answer is it really depends on the type of cyst. It could be an infection, your body might wall off the bacteria to stop it from spreading, and boom, you've got a cyst. Simple blockages are another huge reason. A sweat gland or a hair follicle gets clogged, fluid backs up, and a sac forms. Other times it could be chronic inflammation or even just the normal wear and tear on a joint. And sometimes it's just genetics. Some people are just more prone to developing them than others. Okay, this brings us to what might be the most critical part of this whole explainer: knowing when you need to take action. When does a simple little bump become a real reason to call your doctor? So should you be concerned? Well, while most cysts are harmless, you definitely don't want to just ignore them completely. The key is knowing what signs to look for. So when exactly should you pick up the phone? Here are the red flags your body might be sending you. If a cyst suddenly gets painful, red, or super swollen, that could mean it's infected. If it starts growing really fast, that's another sign. Or if it's getting in the way, affecting how a joint or an organ works, it's time to get it checked. And, like we said before, and it's worth repeating, any new lump in your breast means a visit to your doctor. Period. Now for the golden rule, and this one is absolutely non-negotiable. I know it is so tempting to try and pop or squeeze a cyst at home, but please just don't do it. You risk breaking that sac under the skin, which can spread all that stuff inside, cause a really nasty infection, and just make the whole problem way worse. So what should you do? What are the proper treatment options? Well, for a minor, uninfected cyst, a simple warm compress, just applied a few times a day, can sometimes help it drain on its own. If it needs a little more help, a doctor can safely drain it with a sterile needle. For cysts that are really inflamed, a shot of medication can bring down that swelling. And if you've got a stubborn one that just keeps coming back, surgical removal of the whole sac is often the best bet to make sure it's gone for good. When you get down to it, an unexpected lump is basically a signal from your body. And yeah, most of the time, it's a totally harmless one. But being aware of the signs, listening to what your body is telling you, and knowing when to act, that's a really powerful way to take charge of your own health. So, your body sends signals. Are you listening?